Okay, so here are the dates for the unit exam. There are 33 multiple choice questions. There are 6 written response questions for a total of 45 marks. Okay, so there are 33 multiple choice marks and there are 45 marks in the written response. And as I told you last week, the format of the written response is exactly the same as the format of the practice exam. So it's going to be a question with 7 reactions that just need to be balanced. Okay, so in the written response, it starts out with like question number 1, and there's 7 reactions, okay, and they just have blanks that you need to fill in. All you need to do is balance them, just fill them in. Okay, that's your first question, just 7 balancing questions. Okay, so like A through G or whatever it is. Okay. Second question, 4 reactions that need to be written out in formula form, predicted, identify the type, balance. They're 4 marks each. Question number 2 is write the reactants, predict the products, tell me the type of reaction, balance the reaction. Okay, then there's a question about structure of the atom. What's our currently accepted model of the atom? The de Broglie model, the electron cloud model. If you don't know the name, electron cloud is also fine, de Broglie is fine too. Okay, so I'm going to want you to draw a picture of an atom. Okay, I'll tell you what element on the test. You have to draw me a picture of that element's atom. Right? That's going to include, I'll take that with you. Okay, that is going to include, okay, the right model and the right number of protons, neutrons, and electrons all in the right place. 5-mark question. Okay, so 1 mark for the right model, 1 mark for everything being in the right place, 1 mark for the right number of protons, 1 mark for the right number of neutrons, 1 mark for the right number of electrons. Okay, that's a log. That's me throwing you an easy one. You should hit that one right out of the park. Okay, I'll take that, Caitlin. All right, and then you've got a question, then it's the mole equation question. Okay, 1 of each type. Okay, so next question is going to be about water. Okay, we talked about what kind of molecule water is. Okay, you got to explain to me what kind of molecule it is. Explain to me what that means. Okay, tell me what it can do. All right, what those behaviors would look like. Maybe a living thing that can, okay, use those things to its advantage. Okay, so it's about the polar nature of water. Okay, it's one of the questions. That is the question where the actual test differs from the practice test, because the 5th question on the practice test is about how the model of the atom has changed, which is now in the multiple choice. Okay, and then the last question is about solubility. Okay, and it's a practical application of what you know about reactions and solubility. Okay, using reactions and solubility to solve a practical problem. Okay, another little piece of news for you, something has come up, and I will not be here on Thursday when you write the test. That's okay, I can't answer any questions for you while you write the test anyway, because it's supposed to be about what you know, okay? There will be a sub here who will be supervising, and I will leave explicit instructions about you being allowed to write into scheduled help, as I promised. Okay, so that opportunity will still be available to you, okay? Just like it was going to be if I were here. All right? Okay. Let's go over what's going to be important here. Okay, so the first thing we went over in this unit was the structure and history of the atom. So we've already covered that one of the written response questions is going to deal specifically with the structure of the atom, so we definitely need to know how to figure out how many protons, neutrons, and electrons there are. Okay, we need to know what the current model is and where all the parts go. Okay, that's part of it. Most of this is in the multiple choice. Okay, so in the multiple choice, there could be some questions about, Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, an easy multiple choice question for me to make up would be, which of the following is not part of Dalton's atomic theory? And I'd have 4 points and one of them would be wrong. Okay, that would be your answer. Okay, something along those lines. I'm going to ask about that for sure. Okay, and I might ask about some of the models. Like I might show you a picture of one of them and ask you, whose model is this? A, B, C, or D? Okay? And then there might be a question about why our model of the atom has changed. Okay? So we talked about that a little bit, right? As we discover new things, maybe we have to modify our thinking a little bit along those lines. Okay? That's what will be in the multiple choice from lesson 1. So in preparation for your exam, your bet for lesson 1 anyway, your best bet is to read over lesson 1 a couple of times and just, make sure you recognize the pictures, okay, know Dalton's atomic theory, that kind of stuff. Okay, second thing we went over, currently accepted model, so all this stuff that I just told you. Okay, number of protons, neutrons, electrons, okay, and then the next thing, naming and writing the formulae for chemical compounds. That is your most fundamental skill in this unit. Okay, we've seen here over the last 2 weeks in both reactions and the mole equation just how critical it is to get the formulas right, okay, and the names as well. Right? If I mess up a formula when I'm supposed to be balancing a reaction, I'm not going to get it right. Okay? If I mess up a formula in a mole equation question, I'm also not going to get that right. Okay? And it snowballs pretty quickly. So absolutely have to be able to get the formulas and names correct. Okay? Because obviously in the written response, there are 4 reaction problems, okay? And there are 4 mole equation problems. And you want to maximize your chances on those by getting all the formulas right. Could there also be multiple choice questions where I would do something like this? Which of the following would be the correct formula for PbCl2? And then I would have like lead chloride, lead dichloride, lead Roman numeral 2 chloride, lead fluoride. I don't know, I just had struggle to come up with the 4th one there. Okay? I could easily ask you a question like that. And I could ask you the inverse of that. All right? I give you a name and I say, what would be the correct formula for diphosphorus tetraoxide? Okay? And then you would have to go and find out, oh, it's right, it's P2Cl or O4 or whatever I made up there. Okay? So definitely there could be a little bit of the naming and formulas in the multiple choice. Okay, if you got questions as we go here, guys, don't be afraid to ask. Okay? Okay, so little things to remember, Roman numerals. Okay, when are they appropriate? When are they not appropriate? Okay, when are they appropriate? When do I use a Roman numeral? Ionic compounds that contain, metals with multiple charges or multivalent metals. Okay, so like iron, manganese, chromium, all that stuff. Okay, if you got one of those, then you need a Roman numeral in the name. And what does the Roman numeral tell you if you get the name? the charge to use in the drop and swap. Okay, definitely got to know that. Okay, also need to know your special elements. Okay, they're on your periodic table, but I mean, you need to remember to look there, okay, when you're writing out a reaction, otherwise you're not going to get the reaction right. Okay, properties of compounds. This was lesson 4, and we did a lab on it. So this is all in the multiple choice, okay, the stuff from properties of compounds. Okay, but I could very easily ask you something like this. You have an unknown compound in front of you, and it is a pink crystalline solid that dissolves easily in water and whose solution conducts electricity and has a pH of 6. It would be A, copper 2 sulfate, B, nickel 2 bromide, C, diphosphorus tetraoxide, or D, cobalt 2 nitrate. Which would it be? Cobalt. Cobalt, because it was pink. Okay, so I could totally ask you a question like that. Okay, other things I could ask about, like acids and bases. Okay, an acid would have lots of A, OH ions, B, chlorine ions, D, H plus ions, or I don't know, I'm running out of, you get the idea. Okay, everyone follow me there? Acids always have H plus, okay, hydrogen acting as the metal, okay, things like that. That's what's going to be in there. So how do you prepare for that? That's another one where you need to go over that lesson. Read it a couple of times, okay, make sure you know those things, have a look at your lab report, okay, that kind of stuff. Okay, and then we got solubility. There's a number of multiple choice questions involving terminology. So what's a solute, a solvent, heterogeneous, homogeneous, okay? Using your solubility chart, that's definitely going to be in the multiple choice. Okay, so as I said when we were going over the reactions lab report last week, I could very easily on your exam have a reaction and say which, if any, of the products are soluble, and the options would be A, none of the products are soluble, B, all of the products are soluble, C, lead 2 iodide is insoluble, or D, sodium chloride is insoluble, whatever it happens to be. Okay, it's going to be a reaction, and you got to use your solubility chart. Okay, so that would be on that, right? And then there's also going to be, as we said, some stuff on the polar nature of water. Okay, so go over that same lesson, because the latter half of it is the polar nature of water. Be able to explain to me what a polar molecule is, okay? Why it is the way it is, what can happen with polar molecules, and what behaviors those might cause. And then as a final thing, a living organism that takes advantage of that. Okay, we did talk about 2 in that lesson. And we talked about plants and the Jesus lizard. Okay, so definitely go over that, okay, so that you can tell me about water and its polar nature. Okay, so what is a polar molecule? So be able to tell me what it is, okay, and then, okay, cohesion and adhesion, hydrogen bonds, okay, that kind of stuff. All right, after that, okay, oh, sorry, real world examples. That was the plant and the Jesus lizard that we just talked about. Okay, topic 6 has an asterisk beside it. Reactions. Here's why it has an asterisk beside it. There is no topic on the exam worth more marks than this one. Okay. There's probably only 5 multiple choice questions out of 33 on reactions, somewhere around there. Okay? But in the written response, which is out of 45 marks, okay? Question number 2 is out of 16 marks out of the 45. There's 4 reactions where you have to tell me, write the reactants, write the products, tell me the reaction type, and balance the reaction. That's 16 marks out of 45. Okay? And then add on to that the question right before that was 7 balancing questions. Okay? That's 23 marks if my arithmetic is correct. And the whole written response is out of 45. It's more than half of the marks in the written response. Okay? So, if I were hedging my bets, I would hedge towards really being able to do reactions. Okay? Because they're worth a lot of marks. Would you agree? Okay. So, you got to be able to identify types. There's a couple of multiple choice questions like, hey, here's a reaction. It is A, double replacement, B, single replacement, synthesis, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Be able to predict the products. Okay? And obviously, balance. Okay, so I will ask you to demonstrate your skills with all of those. Right? You have a whole bunch of practice stuff in the workbook. You also have the review package where there were some, and the practice test where there were some more, and you have a key for all of those. So that's probably the best place to look there for some extra practice. Okay, after reactions, then moving over the mole equation, and there's an asterisk beside that. Okay, because there's 15 or so marks on the mole equation. You got one of each type, right? So 4 questions. Okay. So that's like well, that's a third, okay, of the written response. So it's significant. Okay, so problem solving to do with that, and then the last thing that's on there is the scientific method. Okay, now here's what I mean by that. You've already had to do this a couple of times, okay, where on your lab reports you had to identify the manipulated, responding, and controlled variables for the experiment. That's what I'm going to ask you to do in the multiple choice a couple of times, okay, on the unit exam. So I'll describe an experiment to you, and then I'll ask you, what is the manipulated variable, A, B, C, or D? Or what is one of the controlled variables, A, B, C, or D? Something like that. You've got to be able to read an experiment and tell me that's the manipulated, that's the responding. Okay, that's what I mean by scientific method. All right? That's what's on there. Okay? There's absolutely nothing on there that we have not done multiple times in class. Okay? And just so you know, okay, I don't believe a unit exam is the place for me to put all the hardest questions I can think of. Okay? Are there a few on there that are difficult? Sure there are. Are they all difficult? Absolutely not. That would be ridiculous. Okay? So I would say that on average, okay, the test is of a, let's say, moderate, kind of in the middle ground level of difficulty. There are some really easy ones. Okay? There are some trickier ones, but most of the questions lie somewhere in the middle. Okay? Really middle ground kind of questions. So for example, the mole equation quiz that you just did for me. Okay? The last question on there, I would consider that a hard question. Okay? It was only a type 1 mole equation question, but what made it hard? Right, the iodine. I picked a tricky compound. Okay? That's a hard question because it's a little tricky. Okay? And I mean hard, not that it's hard to do, it's that there's something in there that'll trip up a lot of people. Okay? I don't do that a lot on a unit exam. Okay? Maybe a couple questions. All right? Yeah. Okay? And then there's obviously a few that are easier, like, you know, drawing a picture of an atom. I'd say that's a pretty easy question. Okay? And the multiple choice are pretty much the same way. Some of them are trickier, and some of them are really easy. Okay? So in general, though, okay, most of the questions are kind of middle ground, middle of the road level of difficulty. Okay? By the way, I did not just say the exam is easy. I also did not say the exam is hard. The exam is fair. Okay? And time really shouldn't be a factor for it. Okay? I always time how long it takes me to make the key. Okay? And if it takes me, whatever time it takes me, if I can multiply that by 4 and have it fit in a class period, you're good. Okay? If I can only multiply it by 3, that test is a little harder. Okay? It took me 18 minutes to make the key. Just saying. That easily fits inside an 85, 90-minute period. Okay? Because if you multiply, that's what, 76, right? Okay, so that easily fits inside the class period. Plus, you're being allowed to write into scheduled help. So you're good in terms of time. Okay. All right. Questions from you guys? Yeah. Okay, questions from you guys? Anything you'd like me to go over?
Will we have a quiz on Friday then?
You will absolutely not have a quiz on Friday. We're going to go over the exam on Friday.
Okay.
Okay, that will take up most of the short class on Friday, is going over the exam. Okay, anything from chemistry you'd like me to go over a little bit more, talk about a little bit more?
Is Lucas starting a new thing on Monday?
We're starting the new unit tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah, because we're done chemistry. Okay, so we'll have 2 lessons of biology, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's not on the unit exam, okay? Nothing I go over tomorrow or Wednesday will be on the unit exam on Thursday. Okay, so you don't need to study cell theory or anything like that. Okay? All right, here's what I would like you guys to do with the remainder of class. Okay? I would like for you to start having a look at the review package if you haven't already. Okay, you can work on that. Okay, study with a friend a little bit. Okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. If you want me to, I can scroll that up. All you have to do is ask. Okay, but that's what I want you working on. You've got some study time here that's not out of your time.